We are getting into that topic. Now we are dealing with the issue of parenting. How do we deal with parenting? Remember also that we are doing this particular lesson in a particular context, because about 90% of us in this building were not born in the United States. We come from different countries and different regions. And so coming here, we have found a social setting which is a challenge, to our marriages. There are a lot of couples that left Africa, South America, Asia, came here divorced. Because there was a way of male-female relationships here, which is not part of the male-female relationships as described back home. Are you still with me? Amen. What a man and a woman mean in Africa, in China, in Saudi Arabia, in Jordan, in Jamaica, in Puerto Rico or Trinidad or Barbados may not necessarily be what we came here and discovered men and women are. Are we still together? So a lot of people, you'll find that upon arriving in the United States, it was not just about adjusting to career, currency, and economy, but they found they had to adjust completely in how they define a marriage. What are the roles of a woman here versus what they were at home? What are the roles of a man here versus what they were at home? What about children and bringing them up? And that will be our focus today. Because you may find what was generally regarded as discipline, where we came from, and what is discipline here are two different languages. Are we still together? There are things you could have done possibly in Africa, which will land you in prison here. Okay? And you may find yourself sometimes when you want to discipline your children, you feel like taking a flight home, addressing that issue, and then flying back to the United States, knowing that we've sorted this out the Jamaican or the African way. Like when your summer holidays are coming, say, let's go home. You know exactly there are things you need to sort out. You get to Africa, you say, yeah, what were you saying to me? What were you saying to me? Repeat that thing you said. And then you deal with it, and then we fly home. Well, it's a case that took place outside of the borders. So there might be a bit of leverage there. So let's look into parenting and see what are the things that we may learn, okay? Fortunately, I suppose because of the screen size, you would not be able to see, but it's fine. I'll lead us through it. Firstly, when we look at parenting, and I want to get us just to participate briefly here. We are in church, there are no trick questions. Very important, there are no trick questions. So let's just talk about it. When we talk about parenting, in one word, what would it mean to you? Just one. Parenting. Anyone? Okay? Hands? Yes. Teaching. Okay. Somebody else? One word that comes into your mind when you think of parenting, yes? Guidance. Okay. Anyone else? So, yes, ma'am? Principles. Yes, ma'am? Responsibility. Okay. So there are quite a number of words that all of them truthfully encapsulate many of the things that are part of parenting. And I would want to bring them all together in this sort of synthetic definition, where we look at parenting, or we see parenting as an active, conscious, intentional process by which one influences a child for a positive outcome, first in this world and obviously in the world to come. Because unlike parents who don't believe, we actually have an eternity to look forward to. Are we still together? So we are not just interested in creating good citizens of this world, but we want to create good citizens for the world to come. Are we together on that one?
Amen.
Yes?
Amen.
Is there anyone here who has a problem seeing their child in heaven? Anyone who's saying, I'm only doing this for now, but in eternity, I don't want this. Okay, so we are all clear that the influence is also for the world to come. Agreed?
Amen.
Right. Now, we then need to look at key issues that would come out of that. Number one, that parenting is active. Two, that parenting is intentional, it is influential, and that it is outcomes based. It has objectives, it has goals. There are things that we want to achieve. And so what we mean by this, firstly, parenting is active. Parenting cannot be done passively. Parenting does not take place on autopilot. Parenting is not something that you see on the couch and you just watch happening and you keep clapping your hands. Parenting requires involvement. There has to be daily, hourly, minute by minute, second by second involvement. It is active. It is active mentally. It is active spiritually. It is active physically. It is active financially. Parenting demands from you that there must always be active participation. You pay once you have a child.
Amen.
Financially. Are you with me? You pay emotionally once you have a child. A child can move you emotionally to places that you did not think you could be moved to. This is one of the things you don't know as a child, that you can run your parents' emotions like a yo-yo. Are you still with me? Parenting is not something that you can be emotionally abstract from and stand there and just say, I refuse for this child to affect me. One of the things our children don't know is that there's a time when they make us cry. Where we look strong in front of them and then you go to the room and you just weep. Okay? And the tears may be for good reasons or for bad reasons. So parenting is active. It's not done sitting on a couch reading a newspaper. It's not going to be done. Are you still with me? When it comes to parenting, we have to be active. We have to wake up every day and know our mind, body, spirit, and assets are needed in this process. Are you with me? This is why some people will get a girl pregnant and what do? They disappear. It's the active part that they can't stand for. Because suddenly they realize, now that I know that the test has come back with 2 red or 2 purple lines, life changes. Life changes, dear friends. And we must not create a perception that life doesn't change. Once that test comes back with 2 red lines, once skin begins to glow, the eyes sparkle, the teeth whiten. You look at your wife or your girlfriend, it's irrelevant whether you had married her or not. It's irrelevant whether the sex for that night was supposed to result in a child or not. When she starts sparkling and glowing, and suddenly she eats the whole tub of peanut butter, things have changed permanently. And you need to be actively involved.
Amen.
Now, some guys and girls look at that and they say, over my dead body. And they run for dear life. Okay? Secondly, parenting is intentional. In other words, if you are going to parent somebody, you need to want to do it. It will not just actively take everything out of you. You need to want to do this. You need to intend the things you are doing, which means your disciplinary model has to be thought through. You have to know what do you want it to achieve in the end. This is why sometimes I worry when Congress and Senate and parliaments sit down to decide models of disciplining children. I wonder if they have the same intent as the parent they are deciding for. Or they are just fulfilling what should sound constitutionally nice. But the question is, will it get my child where I want them to be? If you look at American society, and you live here, I don't. So you need to ask yourselves, are the parenting measures and disciplinary measures that are prescribed in your constitutions, your bills of rights, and your federal state laws, are they producing a child you want? Is this the child you intended to have when you decided you want to be a parent? These are the questions of intent. What do you want to achieve in the end? Okay? 3, it's influential. And because it has influence, what does that mean? Because you are exerting influence on somebody else, you therefore need to be very, very careful of your own character. In other words, parenting requires you to ask the question, do you want a replica of yourself? Because when you are parenting, you need to ask, since you have an influence on this person, answer this question for me. Would you live in a world whose citizens were you? Let me put it to you differently. Would you allow your child to marry you? If your child came home bringing their choice lover and it was you, would you say to your child, what a brilliant choice? Or would you pull your child aside and say, my dear, you have no idea what you've chosen? So when parenting, therefore, you need to know who you are. So that you need to be able to filter the things about you don't want your generations to repeat. And the things about you that you do want your generations to repeat. So parenting is influential. It doesn't take place in a space where there's no influence. You therefore need to monitor yourself and always ask the question, do I want this version of me repeated? Are you with me? A lot of times when we do counseling between parents and children, as counselors, you discover that the parent and the child are fighting precisely because they are the same thing. What the parent doesn't realize is he has successfully replicated himself. You know, when you listen to a father and a son during therapy, as they fight in your presence, and you think, am I seeing double? Because they are saying the exact same things, but they are not getting along. And sometimes in the end, you have to say, I cannot help you because you are the same person. And maybe that's what you need to discover first, that you are exactly the same. You have got mothers and daughters who struggle to get along because they're the exact same thing. And it's always difficult for us to deal with ourselves. Do you understand what I mean by that? Right. When you see yourself in your child, and your child is grown, and they are you in every sense, and you have to deal with you. Now you understand that when people were saying you are stubborn, what were they saying? Because it is right there. It is you in the flesh. You understand? You have a child that is as stubborn as you are. Are you with me? When people used to say you are slow or you are untidy, and then suddenly you see it in your child and you think, my goodness, what an untidy child. And aha. All right? So, because parenting is influential, think very carefully. What are you doing? Will you be able to live with it in the end? Okay? And of course, parenting is an outcome and goals. What do you want to see in the end? What should be the final product of this whole thing that you are doing? No parent must be surprised by what they will see in the end. It must be something that you intended to see. And if it's not what you intended to see, then you must be able to explain why is it not what I wanted it to be. Accountability. Are you still with me? If our children will not be in heaven, they must explain their own part in not being there. But we also must be able to tell, what could I have done that may have assisted in this? What are the outcomes that you want to see? Okay? Let me say something regrettable, and it's really regrettable. My wife and I have been here in the United States for 3 weeks now. Second trip in the United States. One of the things that was so saddening for me, particularly we paid attention to it in New York. Every American child, teenager that was on the phone was effing somebody in the conversation. Are you with me? As we listened to American teenagers in the subway, in the streets, it was all, and then I told him that I'm gonna F, it was F and F and F. None of them discussed Newton's laws of motion. None of them were discussing principles of accounting, balanced spreadsheets. They were all effing somebody. And my wife and I began to ask ourselves, is this society really happy with the product of child that it is producing? And for those of you who left home to come here, could really this be what you were going for? When you left Africa and Jamaica and Trinidad, was this your vision of a child? People are always effing somebody. Because for me, I'm not saying the kids here are not smart. I'm saying so far I've heard none saying something intellectual in their phone calls. I'm not saying they don't say it. I'm saying in my 3 weeks and the hundreds of teenagers in subways that I've gone through, none were in a, not one, I'm not exaggerating, none were in a conversation of intellectual value. They were swearing at somebody. In the streets, they were swearing at somebody, standing as groups talking. And it was a huge shock for me to meet a society where a child is effing somebody and the F word takes everything. It's a verb, adjective, noun. It covers everything in the conversation. And I had to ask myself, are they sure this is the outcome that they wanted? The laws, the federal state laws, is this what they intended? And are you in a space to have a conversation as a nation? To say, okay, guys, we've practiced these laws for 30 years, 50 years, 100 years. Can we do a review? Is the child we are raising the child we intended to have? Are you still with me? And I've had this conversation, Marv and I have then had this conversation with many different citizens of the United States, and we've been particularly talking to people as they come from different backgrounds. We've spoken to those who have been in the United States for 3, 4, 5, 6 generations, Black Americans, white Americans. We've spoken to the Hispanic community, Jamaicans, guys from Trinidad, Africa, those who were born here and those who have just arrived recently. And we've been trying to get this survey to say, are you conscious participants in the children you are getting? Or are they a default of a system that you are also finding yourself just accepting, it is what it is? Because raising a child needs you to be very clear about the outcome. And one of the challenges I will pose to you without even mincing my words, you will at some point need to take stock. Was leaving home worth it as you see the stock of children you are going to have? I'm not saying you should not have left. Do not interpret my questions in the negative. But it challenges your presence here so that you become intentional. Are you still with me?
Amen.
For example, part of what I analyzed and saw is that this effing language had its strength among Black kids and white kids. But here's what I paid attention to. Children of Asian descent, Russian descent, Jewish descent spoke in different language tones. As if those communities, there is something they are doing well in transmitting their family values. And when you study these communities, do you know what they have in common? Whenever they move around the world, they target the same neighborhoods, target the same schools, so that their children always live in the context of their own values. When Jews move in a neighborhood, they will buy you out. They will target each and every house. And before long, even in a public school, half of the teachers are their own. Are you with me? it seems to me their method works, because what it then does is it forces their kids to rotate in a space where they hear the same faith, the same language, the same values. And so I pose this question to you, particularly because I would say almost 70-80% of this congregation is of African descent. Do you have an African values strategy? One that will keep your children safe. Let's narrow it down. Do you have an African Adventist strategy? One that will keep your faith and values intact in your children? Or you are just going on autopilot, hoping the Spirit will sort it out? Let's look at different approaches to parenting styles. So no longer moving. Thank you. So let's look at these parenting situations. There are two types of parents: single parents, married parents. Going to make it simpler so to understand it. These are two categories of parenting. What are single parents? A, it could be simply people who have their children out of wedlock. That is usually the most basic way that people will approach the definition of a single parent. However, it will not stop there. Divorced parents fall under the category of single parents. Widowed parents will fall under the category of single parents. But also please pay attention. Married parents, but who are only having one party involved in parenting, that makes you a single parent. So you can be a single married parent. When you are two, but only one really takes parenting seriously, that makes you a single parent. Secondly, when you are married, but you use actively opposing parenting styles, it makes you single parents. So when your parenting methods are actively cancelling each other out, you've become what? Single parents, albeit you are married. Then you will have married parents. These, again, second group, these are the ones who are married in terms of legally married, but also use similar parenting styles, or those who you will find that they are, for example, divorced, but they continue to use complementary parenting styles. They would still fall under that married category, even though by marriage they are no longer together. But when they have a continuation of a united, complementary form of parenting, it will fall under the married parenting styles. Then we've got what is called shift parenting. Shift parenting has become extremely modern in the past 5 or 6 years. Shift parenting is when, due to economics, both parents are not able to be present at the house at the same time. So they use a handover shift system. One works night shift, the other one works day shift. So when they come into the house, as they pass each other in the corridor and in the kitchen, they are able to hand over to each other to say, while you were gone, this is how far I helped them with their school projects. This is how far I helped them with homework. So and so is in their detention. So and so is in a naughty corner. They still have 3 hours to go in the naughty corner. Do you understand? It becomes a shift system because of the economic tangles. So they are still using the same style, but they are handing over to each other because of an inability to be in the same place at the same time. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, and also, and having looked at these two categories, we then have to look at the type or types of situations that they would take place under. Next slide. Thank you. Okay, so let's look at the different parenting situations we may find ourselves in. Some of us here are authoritarians. Authoritarians are summed up in very simple ways: because I said so. Authoritarians do not want to explain themselves. They do not want to give reasons. They do not want to be questioned. They want to speak and you do. Authoritarians are a thus saith the Lord, and the Lord is me. Are we still together? Authoritarians have been found to be very strong on achievement targets. Okay? They set goals, very strict, very high goals that need to be attained, that need to be reached. Are we still together? And they develop a very strong relationship between cause and effect, and also the punishment or rewards that must come in. Like I said, they will set strict targets in time and in other deliverables as well. And they are very clear that these are the things you must have done by this particular time. If these things are not done by this particular time, the explanation is unnecessary. Punishment will follow. Next slide. Okay, then comes the authoritative guys. Authoritative, slightly different to the authoritarian. The authoritative will also set strict targets. They will also be very specific about what they want done. The difference is they like explaining themselves. Why is this a target? Why do I want you to achieve this? Are we still together, friends? But not only that, this is what the authoritative will do. If they are going to punish you, they will explain. Why am I about to punish you? Why will I punish you this way? They want to be understood. In other words, the targets have not changed from the authoritarian, but these ones, they are concerned about being understood. You need to know why you are going on detention. They will explain a reward. Why am I buying you a car? Because you've been a good child, and they will go through the history of your good behavior. But they like to be understood for the actions they are about to take or the decisions they are about to make. Then there is the permissive parenting style. Now, in the permissive parenting style, what we find is that here parents exercise very little caution or measures of discipline. They are very open to all things. They tend to not have a fixed definition of good or bad. They define good or bad based on the experiences of a child. So they prefer the child to experiment, and then together with the child ask, do you think that was good for you? Do you think that was bad for you? So they build definitions around the experiences of the child. Are we still together? Okay? And in such cases, then children will tend to be more in charge than the parent. Also here, parents will tend to be more concerned about a friendly atmosphere between them and the child. Okay? Kind of parents that will invite you on Facebook. And also what you will find is they will work a lot on intuition. How do we feel about things, as opposed to this is what they are. Okay? Then we have the detached parenting style. In my language, we've got a saying that says, "Uzosibonela njengechwane nyoka." Okay, and some of you who either speak Ndebele or the related languages have already picked it up. It's because snakes do not mother and nurture. So the saying says, you will figure things out for yourself just like a snakeling. So you are born, I've done my duty. You are here. Now you need to figure life. We all figured it out. You will need to figure it out. Okay? Those who swam. Those who sank. You will also need to figure out, are you sinking or are you swimming? Okay? So in the detached parenting style, these parents tend to not like to be emotionally bothered. They don't like emotional connections. They pretty much like a physical and emotional gap between them and the child. Or, like I said, it's a single stream approach. Technology, we find, has made it a bit easier for parents to do this. It's parenting by WhatsApp and parenting by bank account. What do you want? What can I do for you? Here's the money. Text. Don't call me, text. Don't come around, text. What do you need? Oh, okay, here's the money in your account. Now, one of the misconceptions is that parents who send children to boarding schools fall under this category. Not necessarily. Although it has been seen that detached parents like boarding schools, it does not mean everyone who sends a child to boarding school falls under the detached. Are we still together? Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay? Now, when you look at these parenting styles, one of the things that I need you to be very clear about is that research will show that not anyone is particularly absolutely one thing. For the most part, we may be 50% this and then shop a bit, for the other kinds of styles. And the reason we are doing this is just so that you have a bit of a reflective measure to think. For the most part, what would I say I am? Am I an authoritarian? Am I authoritative? Am I permissive? Am I detached? How do I approach my parenting? Okay, I, for example, was raised by an authoritarian, and I would bet 90% of you here who come from Africa, you were raised by authoritarians. Okay, there may be exceptions here or there, but we are generally continentally authoritarian. Okay, so in my growing up experiences, there were no cases where things were explained as I was disciplined. Okay, at times I just walk through the door and the next thing I feel is a wet towel on the back. As you are beaten, you figure out what you did. No one will tell you that I am doing this because you did not wash dishes. You would just get it. And as you get it, your brain will need to run, because also apologizing for what you don't know increases the punishment. You don't want to say I'm sorry and you are asked for what? Then what follows is you are making a fool out of me, and then things continue. Okay, so you needed to run fast. What did I not do? What did I not do? I did not wash dishes. Okay, now I know what I'm apologizing for. I did not wash the dishes, which usually follows with, also you know what you didn't do. Okay, so we have different parenting situations that we may find ourselves growing under. I wouldn't be too sure really what you choose. And some of what you choose, you may find maybe is a mixture between who you are and the laws of the land. Are we still together, saints? Sometimes it becomes a hybrid. It's who you are, it's the laws of the land, it's the faith you've got. Okay? So when you put together, are you Muslim or Christian? Are you Adventist? Are you what? And who are you personally? And what are the laws of the land? You will usually produce a parent out of that particular situation you are doing. But the good thing is this: regardless of the parenting styles that we choose, the reason we are doing this today is so that I want us to be conscious in our parenting. I just want you to be aware of what you are doing, okay? And when we look at these parenting styles through research, we find a number of things. For example, children of authoritarians have been found to be high achievers. And usually they tend to meet their targets, okay? Children of authoritarians have been found to be very good leaders. They thrive in spaces where teaching and explanation is needed. And of course, you can pick up these things from where they are coming from. Children of permissive parents, for example, have been found to have a bit of a strong lineage towards human nurture, care, and HR. They tend to care about how people feel. They tend to care about creating environments where everyone feels welcome, where everyone feels valued. Okay? The children of the detached, for example, have been found also to be very good in critical analysis and figuring things out. Simply because they come from a situation where the brain needed to understand analysis very early. Okay? So each one of these styles, one could say, oh, that one is negative. No. Each one of them has very good positive attributes to bring into a child. Each one of them may have negative attributes to put into the child. The issue is not to choose one, but it's to be conscious of who you are, study the positives, and do your best to overshadow the negatives.
Amen.
And to shop. Look at what others are doing that you may not have known can be done. Go there, learn how it could be done, and of course, see if you can adopt it. In the book of Genesis 50 verse 20, Joseph says to his brother, you may have sought to do harm to me, but God. And what that simply means to me is that in all situations, do not fret. A lot of parents worry as the years go, am I a good parent? When it's said and done, will my children be pleased about what I have done? And my answer to you is that yes, firstly, be intentional about being good to your children. However, should you make any mistakes, please do not fret. There's a God who always works out his own plan. Are we still together, saints? As long as you know that everything you did out of love and you did out of conscious desire to be good. Now, let's wrap it up. 1, beware of the cultural challenge. Some of us, like I said, we may have married people who understand us culturally, but do not forget that there may be situations where you are married to someone who's not of your own culture. That will require you to think much more resolutely about parenting, because certain aspects of parenting may not mean the same thing to you. Do you understand? If you are black, I'm white, or if you are Shona and I'm Zulu, or if you are Asian and I'm from Trinidad, there may be things we need to discuss very consciously. What does discipline mean in your background? What does it mean in mine? And so that we don't choose a superior culture, but we begin to formulate what is going to be in the best interest of our children. So be aware of cultural differences where you are parenting. Not even between the two of you. Where do you stay? What's the culture around where you are? Are you aware of American culturalism? Do you know what it means, what it represents? How much of it do you want in your house? How much of it do you not want in your house? How will you manage what you don't want? Okay? Generational challenge. Also be aware. There's always a gap between parents and children. You cannot expect your children to reason where you reason. Something about that is just unreasonable. Okay? So always be aware that there's a gap between you. Things mean different things to different generations. I had my first cell phone when I was doing my first year of university. You get that? My firstborn is 15 years old. He got his first cell phone when he turned 14. Different worlds. My cell phone was in the era of the Nokia 3310. When cell phone batteries lasted 7 days. Charge it once and the whole week it will be there. Our children are having their first cell phones in the era of touch screens and technology and Wi-Fi. You get that? That needs to resonate in a parent, that the era in which you are parenting is different to yours. Be cognizant. It doesn't mean give in, but be cognizant and know how to manage. Educational versus spiritual values. Your children go to public schools where evolution is a science. You believe in creationism. How are you going to manage these theories, hypotheses, and theorems taught to your children which do not form part of your belief? You can't just turn a blind eye and think it will all come right. You have to have a clear picture. How will I respond when my child comes home with an evolutionary theory? Remember, parents, saying to your child, no, it's all a lie. A devil's teaching. That's not an answer. That's not an answer. Are you with me? If you know at school they teach things that you do not agree with, study those things. Listen to Christian scientists address evolution questions so that you may have a scientific response to your child. A lot of us just pretend like the question wasn't asked. Not in my house. Don't ask those things in my house. But the child still needs to critically understand, why do we say God created the world when at school they say it started with the Big Bang Theory? Have critical answers that can still affirm your faith.
Amen.
Okay? If you can't manage it, may I suggest, do what the Jews do best, what the Muslims do best. They won't even get to a public school.
Right.
They open their own. They will not play that game of doctrines they don't know. But the difference between them and Adventists, because we also have schools, they make their schools affordable. Ours are not affordable even to our own people. Might want to start sorting that out. Economics versus parenting. Everyone knows we're in the race for money. But again, you need to ask yourself, how much of the money you want is worth losing your ability to raise your children consciously? Friends, you cannot serve two masters. That much I can tell you. You need to decide on a plan of parenting and a plan of making money. If you don't have a plan, they will swallow each other up. You may end up losing both or only gaining one and losing the other. You need a family plan. How are we going to parent? How are we going to make money? How are these plans not going to eat each other? A good example that I said, you are now in the United States. You left Africa, Jamaica, Trinidad, and China and India. Do you have a plan? How are you going to parent in the United States? What's your plan? Are you with me? How are you going to filter the good things of American life? How are you going to filter the bad things of American life? What's the plan? Because I believe primarily most of us came here for financial reasons. In fact, I'll almost be sure 99.9% of the reason is economic development. It's things we could not do where we came from, whether it's the quality of universities or you needed to earn the dollar, which is way stronger than the home currency, so that from this side, you can build a home there. From this side, you can take relatives to university there. Whatever was the reason, I'm okay with it. There's nothing wrong with migration. It's always been the part in the history of humanity. However, humanity thrives when humanity has a plan. Humanity crashes when we are doing trial and error. You can't do trial and error with your children. What's the plan? How are you going to keep the faith alive? We were chatting, driving home the other day, that where I come from and where most of us come from, there is no such a thing as, I'm not going to church today, Mom, I'm sleeping. Such phrases never passed through our mouths. It appears it's possible here to say to your parents, no, I'm not going to church today, I'm sleeping in. I don't even know how things would have sounded had I attempted that. I most likely would be limping today. Things would have happened. Are you still with me? But then you need to think about that. You need to think about that. How do I balance the faith I want my child to have with the rights afforded to them by the American Constitution? How do I make sure that my child doesn't fall into a trap where rights make them lose faith? While at the same time, I don't make my faith sound like a dictatorship. Where do I draw the balance? These are not things that a pastor is going to solve for you. These are things I need you to be awakened on, to pray on and study on. And these are things that as pastors we need to eat up bit by bit with you. This is not the kind of lesson that solves everything in 1 hour. It's the kind of thing we need to revisit once a month, having parent sessions here in church with our kids. And we keep talking. We keep talking. We need more discussions between us and our children. You may have come from a place where you would speak once and things were done. My dear, you are not there. That world didn't work. That's why you are here. And you need to stop burying your head in the sand. Simply rise up and accept. We are here now. How do I parent in a way that makes me spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially, economically effective? In this context. And because I still have relatives in Jamaica, in Trinidad and elsewhere, how do I also make sure that my children don't lose their roots? That when we go home for the summer holidays, my children still know how to greet in Shona. Are you still with me? And I do want to say this as my last key point to you. Language transmits identity.
Amen.
Be very careful when it comes to language. The language your children master will be the language that will inform who they think they are. Are you still with me? And I'm not having anything against English, but I think there are great values in our home languages which English cannot express. And I would challenge you to be intentional about speaking your languages in your homes. Are you with me? There may be an English mother and a Shona father, or a Hispanic father and a Chinese mother. Speak both languages. Believe me, children are smart enough to pick them both up. They'll pick up English at school. They'll pick up Spanish from their father. They'll pick up Mandarin from their mother. They will lose nothing. Instead, they will collect key international values that will make them good citizens of the world.
Amen.
Are you with me, friends?
Amen.
So may God bless you and keep you as we wrestle with this matter of parenting. I would strongly, Pastor, challenge the church that when it comes to parenting, let's at least set up one appointment every month where parents and kids, particularly teenagers, we come here, we form a group discussion. Let young people talk about how they feel. They also have views about being parented by an African when they are Americans. You need to hear their difficulties. Don't think you are the most perfect parent in the world. Listen humbly. Let your parents, your children tell you the difficulties of being your child. Don't wake up thinking you are the Alpha and the Omega and the cousin to Jesus Christ. You are not. Let your children talk. Actually, Dad, this is where you miss me. This is where you've got no clue what it means to be me. This is where when I say this, you say that, we miss each other, and I just shut down. And then we both open doors and walk towards each other.
Amen.
Okay? Life never works by one way. I'm willing to take this one step if you are willing to take another step until we get somewhere where my Africanness and your Americanity can gel and we produce a loving home to be in. I don't think these things are mutually exclusive and must fight each other. I don't think Africanity is better than being an American. I don't think there's one that is evil and the other one is holy. All of them have strengths, all of them have weaknesses. And because you are here, open up to discussions about how to create a good parenting relationship.
Amen.
God bless you. God keep you. Let us rise to pray.